Welcome to the Razors Inc. podcast with your host, Jonathan Farini. 60 years ago, after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that sex and obscenity were not necessarily synonymous, begat a golden age of exploitation films, which in turn had subgenres, think slashers, women in prison, blaxploitation, and others. So pour yourself a drink, pull up a chair, and hear Jonathan's take on movies, television, and today, an exploration of one sexploitation film. Here's your host, Jonathan Farini.
We're investors hearing a pitch by an independent filmmaker named Ted Mickles. I'll refer to him as Ted. Independent means he has no studio to finance the film, likely no distribution deal, and no guarantee of receiving one. And he'll produce, spend our money, write, and direct the movie. You ask, what's the film about, Ted? A straight-laced married couple from the Midwest moved to Los Angeles because the husband received a promotion. No kids, and the young pretty wife doesn't work. My film follows them into the depravity of life on the fringes of Los Angeles through a series of sultry encounters, beginning with Joni, a neighbor who is a cocktail waitress at a kinky dive bar, and co-worker of the husband, who lives life in the fast lane, who stokes Cliff's smoldering Midwestern sexual fire burning inside his belly like a devil. The morality of the couple is challenged, and the movie showcases the pitfalls of falling victim to the depravity of the big city, and raises the question of whether the couple will escape the depravity and move forward with their lives and plans for a family. What do you think, investors? I'm in the room and ask a question. Tell me about a scene, Ted. Ted becomes visibly excited and expressive, moving his hands as if directing a scene. Cut to a sedan traversing the heavy LA traffic with a woman at the wheel. Cut to interior small living room where we only see the hands of a man dealing cards in the game of solitaire. The only sound we hear is the ticking of a grandfather clock. Cut to the sedan arriving outside a suburban home. A woman in trench coat carrying a hat bag walks to the front door as if visiting. However, the door is unlocked and she enters. Cut to interior of small living room. There is no conversation, just the ticking of the clock. She removes her coat and places the hat bag on the sofa. She removes her high-heel shoes. She disrobes from a fashionable dress, revealing a black bodysuit with black nylons. She reaches into the hat bag and retrieves ankle-high pointed-toe boots, which she places on. She points to the floor and the man kneels. The woman binds his hands and throws him to the floor as he lies on his belly. She reaches into the hat bag and retrieves a bullwhip. A close-up reveals the tight leather lacing, its length of about 6 feet, and it's heavy in the petite woman's hands. She begins to flog him. The look on her face is one of ferocity, contempt, and zeal. There are no shouts of pain, just writhing, and the man's body is contorted. The woman moves to the man, raises his shirt, and reveals lash marks. The woman is visibly exhausted by flailing the whip. She kicks him twice in the rib cage with the pointed heels, and the man grimaces. The woman walks toward the sofa, places her hands behind her, and unzips the bodysuit. Cut. Interested, fellow investors? The movie is called One Shocking Moment, made in 1965. More about this film to follow. Ted learned to make films as a kid with a camera, developing the film inside the bathtub, and graduating to shooting and cutting film with a small camera. He found work on the set of westerns, including Stuntman, and developed a realistic prop arrow. He opened an office in Hollywood with the help of esteemed actor John Houseman, the paper chase professor.
Mr. Hart, will you recite the facts of Hawkins versus McGee? I do have your name right. You are Mr. Hart.
Yes, my name is Hart.
You're not speaking loud enough, Mr. Hart. Will you speak up?
Yes, my name is Hart.
Mr. Hart, you're still not speaking loud enough. Will you stand? Now that you're on your feet, Mr. Hart, maybe the class will be able to understand you. You are on your feet?
Yes, I'm on my feet.
Loudly, Mr. Hart. Fill this room with your intelligence.
That actor. I must tell you, Houseman's collaboration with Ted makes John all the more interesting to me. Maxim of the podcast. Hollywood makes for strange bedfellows. Ted worked behind the scenes on Hollywood productions, but becoming a mainstream Hollywood director eluded him. He made 45 films between 1955 and 2017. I'll mention a few where he was producer, writer, and director, and you'll get an idea of his genre, which I have named Fringe and Cringe, denoting working on the fringes of Hollywood. He lived on the border of L.A. in a suburb named Glendale, a metaphor for the term fringe, and cringe, implying his films appealed to filmgoers in search of sizzle, sex, and skin. My words.
The intangible problems are more often than not psychological, and they arise in every conceivable way. The most prevalent of these man must face is sex. Sex is itself a vast and complex problem, but more so in the city because we see sex everywhere, on every street corner, in the office secretaries with their beautiful legs, their charming smiles, and adjusting their cute stockings. Yes, man is constantly faced with the provocations of the society around him.
1964, Dr. Sex, a film about three sex researchers, co-written, produced by Wayne Rogers of MASH fame. Like John Houseman, I appreciate Wayne a lot more now. 1969, The Astro Zombies, co-written by Wayne Rogers. A fired scientist creates superhuman zombies from body parts of murder victims. Stars John Carradine.
Here comes the Doll Squad, America's newest and deadliest secret weapon. A rocket is sabotaged. This sets the scene for one of the greatest manhunts in the history of the United States.
What's the name of the island?
Meet Sabrina Kincaid, the leader of the Doll Squad, played by red-headed, beautiful Francine York. She recruits members of the Doll Squad from every class of society.
1973, The Doll Squad. 5 shapely female operatives thwart the efforts of a madman to take over the world. Gee, in 1976, a popular television series premiered with the same theme. A maxim of the podcast, everything old is new again. It's nice to beat them to the punch, Ted, but it sucks when they make all the money. In 1966, Ted directed and produced The Black Klansman.
You're all a bunch of cowardly Uncle Toms! You don't deserve to be saved! But I'm gonna save you anyway. In 48 hours, I can have you all crawling off your knees with a snarl in your teeth that can be heard all the way to Washington, D.C. Look at you! If your proud ancestors could see you now, they'd spit in your cringing faces. Your forefathers were proud men, proud men. Follow me for 48 hours, and you'll never have to follow anybody again.
My maxim is back. Everything old is new again, because I saw a 2018 movie by the same name, which I enjoyed. Ted's version included a light-skinned, passable for white, black man working as a musician in L.A. and married to a white woman who moves down south, joins the Klan, and avenges the death of his daughter conceived with a deceased wife. Ted's version appeared half a century earlier, and an interracial marriage was a big thing in 1966. Ask Sammy Davis. Ted, you were too early for our time, but not afraid to test cultural norms. 1982, 10 Violent Women, a female prison movie. 1997, Apartheid Slave Women's Justice. 2004, Mark of the Astro Zombies. 2006, Heart of a Boy. Only G-rated film of his career. Awarded a certificate of recognition by the state of Nevada for his contribution to filmmaking. Ted had taken up residence by this time in Vegas. 2010, Astro Zombies M3 cloned. 2014, Astro Zombies M4. Invaders from Cyberspace. 2017, 10 Violent Women. Ted's genre included scantily clad, sexy women, violence, blood, but hold on, because Ted's going to take us into the shadowy bars and bedrooms of sexual edge players shortly. Ted was a larger-than-life figure. He looked like a cross between Hemingway and the actor Keenan Wynn. He led quite an interesting personal life you can read about, which I believe gave him a unique insight into women, which shows up in the film I'll discuss. He passed in 2016 at the age of 87 in Vegas.
You work real hard now and show them they picked the right man for the job. Oh, see that Mindy writes often and calls us once in a while, will you?
I will, Ma.
Oh.
You know, if this transfer doesn't affect my vacation, we'll be back in a couple of months anyway.
Oh.
Maybe sooner if I goof up.
You won't goof up.
That must be the taxi.
One Shocking Moment, 1965. The film is currently on YouTube for free. Not many comments, so either people aren't hip to the subject matter or the film continues to appeal only to the fringe and cringe crowd. If I was teaching a film class, I'd show the flagellation scene on the first day of class, and the assignment would be to finish writing the story, not to exceed 120 pages, because there's no explanation for why Tanya left the bar to visit with this unknown recipient of the beatdown. Don't be offended if the registrar recommends you take my course, pass-fail. It was made in 1965, the era of booze, cigarettes, and red meat, the Rat Pack. The Now movement formed in 1966, and a television series about a cute young lady setting out for New York to seek her dream of becoming an actress would debut in 1966. See my podcast, That Girl. Women were embarking upon careers before marriage and family while demanding control of their bodies. I'd like to think Ted was aware of this and wanted to depict strong women turning the tables on men, because every woman inside this film is manipulating men. I also think Ted's experience professionally and personally in Hollywood gave him an insight into the moral bankruptcy befalling the naive and was putting out a subtle warning to those seeking fame and fortune inside the City of Angels. I don't think the film played in theaters except one in Arizona. It was a film rented by frat boys, lodge brothers, and shown at bachelor parties. The movie rental biz didn't include yellow superstores, but did include seedy storefronts with no windows. Inside, you likely saw stalls with the only privacy being a curtain. Behind the curtain, people were dropping change to watch a stripper on the other side of a glass partition. I understand the glass was one way and the dancer couldn't see the men. See the movie Paris, Texas for such a place. The guy behind the counter would reach for a scratched-up, soiled film can the size of a hubcap you'd only want to handle with surgical gloves. So, what about female empowerment, Jonathan? Tanya, aptly played by Vernee Martin, owns a tiki-style dive bar replete with a jazz combo, belly dancer, and a hot cocktail waitress named Joni, with whom Tanya has a romantic relationship.
Hello. Cliff and Mindy, I want you to meet Tanya. Tanya, Cliff and Mindy Newhall. They're friends across the hall. You know, the ones I was telling you about. Mindy, how nice to have you for a neighbor as well as a customer. I hope we can also be good friends. And you too, Cliff.
Oh, thank you. Only you're liable to see more of us around here than at the apartment. This is just my kind of a joint, a real hep place.
Enjoy yourselves.
Remember, it's 1966. Tanya professes no interest in men. She's formidable, attractive, and takes no prisoners. She runs the bar like a general and serves up a potent grog. Although a petite woman, she grabs a drunken groper by the hair and collar, throwing him out and onto the sidewalk, where he lands at the feet of a sexy woman in stiletto heels, who retrieves the cash from the wallet thrown from the drunk's pants and drags him to her room for a trick. When Cliff reports to his new office, he's immediately seized upon by the secretary to his boss. We get the impression she performs more than shorthand and typing for the boss, but she informs Cliff that she's well aware of him because of all the reports she'd read about him. The secretary would seduce Cliff later in the movie, who discards his wife like a spent piece of gum. Tanya must attend the whipping scene and tells Joni to close up, who can't comply due to another engagement. Tanya slaps her across the face, and Joni takes it like a shamed dog. She complies.
Did you want to see me? Yes, Joni, I want you to close for me. Oh, but Tanya, I was supposed to get off at 12 tonight and... Sorry, Tanya. I didn't mean to upset you.
It's a very steamy power dynamic between two women in a relationship. Complex moving parts for a low-budget 1966 film, I contend. Ted aptly shows us female empowerment cuts across genders. Tanya wants to seduce Cliff's wife, Mindy. I suspect it's sport for Tanya. If you hate men, prefer young, attractive women, why not exert your power and break up a marriage? Tanya woos Mindy and Joni with a shopping trip to a ladies' boutique. Ted provides a lot of disrobing, frontal nudity from the waist up, and full nudity from the back. Tanya revels in the feminine beauty, and it's obvious as she demands the young, attractive women try on many clothing outfits for her and the viewer's carnal amusement. I submit Ted used live locations. Somebody's home or office is less expensive than building a set. Ted invites us into an orgy of sorts. No nudity, just a lot of wife-swapping, necking, and clothed grinding. Mindy is drunk and dances naked for the party while Cliff is at play. You might argue she too is empowered and has become a free spirit from the shackles of being a dutiful wife. Tanya chides Mindy. Don't go back to him. Stay with me. Tanya remains determined to break up the marriage. Tanya takes Cliff into the bedroom and demands he have sex with her. She places a satin rope around his neck, commanding, "Make love to me." Cliff is beginning to find his moral compass and replies, "No." Mindy slaps Cliff across the face and further manipulates Cliff by going straight for the male ego, exclaiming, "Your wife was a better lover." Cliff and Mindy are reunited inside the bedroom, and Cliff explains, "What have I done to you?" The film concludes with a very unusual, out-of-the-box outro.
This is not the end, of course. Merely the end of a beginning for Cliff and Mindy. They have found a new and perhaps more meaningful course in life, only because they were able to overcome those temptations which threatened to divide them. Yet the temptations of evil go on. They manifest themselves daily in each of our lives. We're really fortunate. We'll be able to recognize, thereby overcome them. Or maybe we would rather not.
The film's ending reads like a grade school public service announcement film we used to watch, but works just fine. I think it's Ted's inside joke, or maybe he was serious. Be careful what you look for, you just might find it in Hollywood. The fine actresses in this film, particularly Tanya, were courageous, because having a credit in this film didn't advance your career in legit film or theater. I contend they didn't care because, like Ted, working in film, any film, is better than not. What's the point, Jonathan? One Shocking Moment is a time capsule illustrating the edgy sexual mores of the mid-60s. The free-spirited orgy scene is reminiscent of the wine-crushing party in Santa Barbara inside the movie Seconds. See my podcast, Seconds. 1960 through 1966 was a softer, gentler 60s, I've argued in previous podcasts. And One Shocking Moment was an oracle film, warning us we were heading into the tumultuous latter 60s, marked by assassinations, campus unrest, psychedelics, and no looking back. I'd like to think Ted read the writing on the wall and was providing us with a cautionary tale about the future. Ted, I'm happy I met you. Until I meet you next time, please leave behind a soft footprint, and class is dismissed.
And while one shocking moment will never show up on a list of must-see movies, it is a curiosity, and when watched in the context of the times when it was released, becomes a fascinating watch. Some of the sexiest women you'll ever see on screen also doesn't hurt. You've been listening to the Razors Inc. podcast with Jonathan Farini. Be sure to check out Jonathan's collection of fiction at the Jonathan B. Farini Story Collection at jonathanfarini.com. There you'll find everything from drama to romance, something for every reader, including Latchkey Girl, recently published by Modern Literature magazine. That's jonathanfarini.com, Farini with 2 R's, 1 N. Or drop an email to razorsincpodcast@gmail.com.